and welcome to a special Super Bowl preview of New York State of Mind. I know it's been a while, but I'm Pasquale Tartaro alongside Mitchell Broder. We got a good show for you guys today. We're going to be looking to get this up on YouTube Sunday morning, a few hours before the big game, and we also just received news that for the second semester, our live shows will be on Fridays from 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. We'll tweet that out as well, and we're looking to get more active on the Twitter this semester, so we'll keep you updated on that. But let's just jump right into it. Obviously, Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Pretty epic matchup right here. Mitch, I'm just going to pose the question to you right away. Is this the greatest quarterback matchup in the Super Bowl of all time?
It's got to be up there. I mean, these two quarterbacks are so, tremendous. And you got Tom Brady, who's obviously the GOAT. Everyone talks about him. I mean, there's really no debate, I think, at this point. And Mahomes, who is the future of this league. I mean, he right now is no question on his way to being considered an all-time great. I think the only matchups that maybe put in the conversation, I'm not good with my Roman numerals, but the Super Bowl in the 1984 season, you had Joe Montana versus you had Dan Marino and Joe Montana who battled in the Super Bowl together, and that's probably pretty close. You had Joe Montana and John Elway for the 97 Super Bowl. After that, I mean, maybe Drew Brees and Peyton Manning. I mean, there's just not been a lot of matchups.
That's the one I was thinking of, but
yeah, and you also had Aaron Rodgers and Big Ben in Super Bowl for the 2010 season. So listen, there has been some really excellent Super Bowl matchups, but I think this is the best just because you have Tom Brady, right? Who is again the GOAT. 6 rings. I mean, we really don't need to talk about Tom Brady all that much. We know what he is. And you got Patrick Mahomes, who has been in the league now for 4 years. Okay, already has a Super Bowl and Super Bowl MVP, league MVP, and is pretty much considered to be the best quarterback in the league already.
yeah.
I just don't see how this can be topped. I don't know how you can say any other matchup has been, at least on paper, is more hyped up at the quarterback position than this. I mean, this is truly the legend meets the new up-and-comer. And I think it's going to be a great matchup on Sunday.
Yeah, and just the storylines behind it just makes it so much more special. I mean, you have Tom Brady who just left New England, and there was, of course, that whole question of whether or not he could get it done without Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. And let alone in his what season is it for him? He's 43 years old.
I think this is his 21st season, maybe.
21st season. Can he get it done in a new organization, new head coach, new coaching staff, new teammates? It's crazy that he was able to get it done and get to the Super Bowl. And then, of course, you have Mahomes on the other side, who his first 3 years starting in the league, MVP, AFC Championship. Obviously, he lost to Brady in the playoffs the last time they played. But then the 2 years after that, Super Bowl appearance, which ended up in a Super Bowl MVP and a win, and another Super Bowl appearance with Tom Brady. So I just think the storyline behind this is just so special, and I don't think we're going to get another matchup like this for quite some time. So I would have to go yes, honestly, because Mahomes, if he wins this game, you could obviously make the argument that he's already like a top 10 quarterback of all time. As crazy it is to say, like, he has the numbers, he'll have the sort of credentials, the 2 Super Bowl wins, and he already has a league MVP. So it's crazy to say, but Brady's chasing 7 rings, which is crazy, and Mahomes is chasing the GOAT status, which Tom already has. So I would go yes as well. You sort of brought this up to me in the pregame show. Do you think it's better to sort of have a collection of players that are like sort of explosive superstars like the Chiefs have, sort of like Mahomes, like Tyreek Hill, like Travis Kelce, like Chris Jones, like Frank Clark, Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu? or the better all-around team, which I think me and you both agree on, the Bucks have, because they do have, as of right now, with all the injuries on the Chiefs offensive line, they do have the better offensive line and the better defensive line. I think we could both agree. And they just have a great collection of players. Would you rather, if you were a head coach, have a collection of just flat out superstars at the top of your roster? Now, granted, the Chiefs still have a good back end of their roster as well. Or would you rather have the better all around team like Tampa does?
I think I'd rather have the superstars, and I think that we sort of saw that unfold, in these playoffs. I mean, if you look at the Bills and the Chiefs, right, I think that the Bills might have the more complete top to bottom roster. However, those superstars can just make some X factor kind of plays that you just cannot account for. And, I know the Packers probably also were the team that had the more superstars, right? But there's a limit. You can't have such big depleted holes. Like, I don't think either of these teams have like gaping holes at certain positions. But that being said, I think I would take the superstars just because they can make game changing plays at any moment in any game. And as nice as it is to have we have a really solid secondary or a good D line or whatever, well, that doesn't account for a Tyreek Hill, with that speed and that ability, just blowing by a defender down the field, or Travis Kelsey, making some clutch play on third down and move the sticks. I mean, sometimes there's plays like that that just kind of you can't account for. They're special plays by special players. And I think we've seen kind of over the years. I mean, look at some of these Patriots teams that have won the Super Bowl over the last, 10 years, right? There's been a lot of those Patriots teams that, frankly, on paper don't look great, but they have enough great players that make special plays. It doesn't matter who they played against. They actually have the better collection of just rare players. So I think I would have to lean towards superstars, excuse me, because I just think that they make some plays every game that are just stuff that you can't teach, you can't coach. It's just raw, natural ability.
Yeah, obviously you mentioned you can't have any gaping holes. And I think if you get to the Super Bowl, you obviously should not. But you brought up this year's playoffs. I'm going to take it back to last year's Super Bowl when I picked the 49ers to beat the Chiefs because I thought they had the better all around team. Obviously, their O and D lines
Yep.
were very unstoppable throughout the regular season and playoffs. And that's why I thought they were going to be able to top the Chiefs. And as we saw, they had a lead entering the fourth quarter, but there came Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and all the superstars on the Chiefs who just sort of took over that football game and scored. I forgot how many points it was, but you just blinked. And before you knew it, the Chiefs had the lead again. And if you were a 49ers fan, you were banking on Jimmy Garoppolo to lead you to victory. So I would have to agree with you there. I think it's better to have a sort of top tier collection of superstars like the Chiefs has, especially when they're so explosive like Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelsey, Mahomes, even Clyde Edwards-Helaire, even if he's not up there yet, he still has that ability. So yeah, I would have to agree with you there. Let's move on and give our predictions and our keys to the game for both teams. Mitch, we'll start with you. What are the keys for the Kansas City Chiefs to sort of neutralize the Bucks and win this game?
I think number one is stopping the run, which I think has been a big reason why Tampa Bay has gone to the Super Bowl. Leonard Fournette has had a tremendous postseason and has really been kind of that X factor for them that they didn't have all season. So I think that the Chiefs, they got to stop the run so they can get the ball back to Mahomes quickly. And this is not to say that Tom Brady can't win the game throwing it a bunch. However, Tom Brady has never been I can win if we throw it 60 times and have 50 rushing yards. In New England, he always had a good ground game. He's had a pretty good rushing game here in Tampa Bay. And again, not taking anything away from Tom Brady, just saying, there are some quarterbacks who aren't necessarily, built to just, especially at 43 years old, that's unfair to tell a 43-year-old, yeah, we need you to throw it 50 times to win this game. Now, could Tom Brady do that and win the game? Sure. But why even put him in that position? You want to ultimately control the clock, control the line of scrimmage. So for the Chiefs, if that's in their case, they got to stop the run and stop Fournette and force Tom Brady to have to throw it a ton of times, let him get exposed to some hits and see where that goes. I think number 2 is also communication in the secondary for the Chiefs. I mean, Tampa Bay's got an excellent receiving core, weapons on every level, probably have the most weapons other than the Chiefs. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, you got Mike Evans, Godwin, Antonio Brown. They got
Even
all those
Scotty
tight
Miller
ends.
too.
Scotty Miller's been
Yeah.
solid, right? They got even like Ronald Jones out of the backfield catching passes. Like they have players at every level. Kevin Brate out of nowhere has had a sick postseason.
Yeah.
Gronkowski's got 7 touchdowns. I mean, it doesn't stop. They got pass catchers and explosive players everywhere. And the Chiefs are gonna have to shut them down. They did a great job against Buffalo and all their top-notch pass catchers a week ago, or I guess 2 weeks ago now. But I mean, but this is another kind of test for them. Can they handle them? Can they contain them? Because they kind of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers sort of have a little bit of everything. They got the fast guys, they got the big guys, they got the guys with great hands, they have the guys who are great route runners. They sort of have everything at their disposal, and they're very hard to defend. So that's, I think, going to be key in this game. And most importantly for the Chiefs is just put up points. No one scores points better than they do. And there's a reason why they've been so dominant over the last 3 years is because it is so hard to just score 30, 35 points like it's nothing. And the Chiefs did that. I mean, think about it. Against Buffalo, they didn't score a point in the second quarter and still put up 38 points. Like, they are sometimes just on fire. I mean, you saw, like I said, last year, they were down by 10 points, I think, in that Super Bowl, and they scored 21 unanswered. Like, it was nothing. So, if they can just put up points, put the pressure on the Buccaneers rather to, keep on trying to answer, you would have to believe that at some point the Buccaneers might crack and allow the Chiefs, to take advantage and build up a lead.
Yeah. For me, the 3 keys for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You said stop the run. For the Buccaneers, I think you got to run the ball. Obviously,
Absolutely.
you got to try to chew up the clock. And as overused as this may be, you got to just try to keep the ball away from Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you can't give him the ball for that long. You can't keep giving the Chiefs opportunities to score because they're going to do it. So you got to lessen those opportunities as much as you can. Second off, we saw earlier in the year. Now, I know obviously you don't want to use previous matchups earlier in the year and act like they're indicative of the Super Bowl because it's a completely different game and they're completely different teams. But earlier when these teams played, I forgot which month it was, but Tyreek Hill put up 200 yards in the first quarter. You just cannot allow that to happen. I think they were playing press man on him and blitzing Mahomes a lot. You cannot blitz Mahomes because he's really, really good against it, or you got to do it every once in a while. We know Todd Bowles loves to do that, but if the Bucs are going to win this game, they're going to have to try to double Tyreek Hill or just sort of neutralize him because he's going to get his. There's no doubt about that, but you just can't let him explode on you for over 100 or 150 yards early on in this game, or else it's just going to be trouble. Chiefs passing game is going to open up. It's going to open up their running game as well, and it will just be pretty much unstoppable at that point. And I think last but not least, I think I would say the 4-man rush for the Bucs because they had a lot of success with that against Green Bay 2 weeks ago. And as I mentioned before, Todd Bowles loves to blitz, but Patrick Mahomes has been phenomenal against the blitz. And if they're able to put 7 guys in their secondary and sort of worry about the Chiefs receivers instead of sending guys at Mahomes and opening up those windows, if they can get pressure with that 4-man rush, I think they can really open things up for them and get the ball back to Brady and just sort of match that productivity that the Chiefs are able to get on the offensive side of the ball. So
no, I agree 100%.
Let's transition quickly. I know we're talking a lot about the Super Bowl, but there is some stuff going on with other NFL organizations right now, particularly 2 other quarterbacks. First, let's start with Deshaun Watson. Obviously, Deshaun Watson, by a lot of people's estimation, is a top 7 to maybe even 5 quarterback in the NFL right now. And he's made it pretty clear that he wants out of Houston. Why exactly? I'm sure you have your reasons as well as mine, as well as what has been reported around the league. But I just want to get your take on what is wrong with this Houston organization. Do you think Deshaun Watson is correct for wanting out at this point in his career? And what do you think the best fit for him right now is.
Well, starting with your first question, I mean, when you look at this Houston Texans organization, I mean, it comes down to Jack Esterby. I mean, he's been the guy who has been sort of in the limelight the last month, and it the thing I see with the Texans that really bothers me is, for me, like I personally believe that the league is transitioning to a point where the players really do have a say, and they really dictate a lot. Similar to kind of like the NBA, how you see where like
Yeah.
LeBron, right? Everyone jokes, oh, LeBron picks who the coach is. Well, yeah, if you're LeBron James, you kind of have earned that right to decide who the hell is coaching your team. And Deshaun Watson is sort of in that point where, you know, whatever makes him happy and whatever's going to bring the team success, you got to do that. And just alienating the players, the point of, oh, well, whatever you say doesn't matter. We're going to do what's right for us. We don't care what our players think. We won't even listen. That's just that's just not how it is anymore. That used to be the NFL of the past, but it's 2021. Times are changing, and the player's voice has grown so much over the last 4 or 5 years that it's really been frustrating. Yeah, I have nothing that puts any dog in the race when it comes to the Texans. I don't care about the Texans, but just watching them kind of just disregard the opinion of your franchise quarterback. I mean, this is the guy that's going to, or who's supposed to, lead you to Super Bowls, to just be like, oh, we don't care what you think. It just sends such an awful message. So I don't blame Deshaun Watson one bit for wanting to get out of the Texans. He got his money, he got paid. You can, people want to play that card. You can, kind of shut up. Like, even if you're on a terrible team, getting paid is getting paid. In the NFL, if you can get that second contract, you get it. Doesn't matter who it's from. However, this is a guy who had an amazing season and they went 4-12.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got nobody around him. He's got awful coaching. Their coaching hires this offseason, David Culley, who I do know a little bit about. He used to be the Bills quarterback coach for 2 years.
Okay.
Okay. And yeah, he was the quarterback coach for Josh Allen's rookie year, which was by most people's accounts a pretty horrendous rookie year. Which, interestingly enough, which Bills fans, we talked about it during that season when Josh Allen would talk about his development. He'd talk about Brian Daboll. He would talk about Sean McDermott. He would talk about Jordan Palmer, who's his private quarterback coach in the offseason, and he would never mention David Culley. Never once. David Culley also was the passing game coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens this season, who were the worst passing offense in the league. And he was the wide receivers coach for the Chiefs, which, Pat, I don't know if you remember this. I think this was 2013, I think it was 2014, where the Chiefs were the only team in league history to have a receiver, not one receiver, catch a touchdown pass the entire season. So, listen, as people put with David Culley, he's a great guy, but he's a terrible coach. He's a terrible coach, and he's now running this organization. They hired a GM, which Deshaun didn't want. It seems like that they have had kind of no regard for him. So again, for him, get out of Houston while you can. Fix your career while you have a chance to, because he's in the prime of his career. He's a 25-year-old franchise quarterback who is just starting to hit the prime of his career. As far as the best fits are concerned, I mean, he could go anywhere. Personally, the team I'd actually really like to see him go to is Washington, just because I actually think that they have everything he wants. They have a good coach who is a leader of men, who the players respond to great, Ron Rivera. They have a great defense, and their offense has some players. I mean, listen, Taylor Heineke, was an average, who was nothing special, but he played pretty well. And you saw they kind of looked like a different team than we saw all season long. They're not that far off from being like potentially like legit contenders. I think. I think they're a few moves away and a quarterback from really being legit in the NFC. I mean, of course, the Colts are another team that comes to mind. I don't know if they have the capital for it, but maybe. I mean, you got the Dolphins. There's teams like that who I think have good fundamental pieces for a quarterback, and they have coaches that are just stable, under control, and that are just there for their players. So that's where I think for them that would benefit Deshaun Watson the best.
Yeah. Where do I start? I think you made a lot of great points. Obviously, you know more about David Culley than
Sorry
I
if I
do.
rambled, by the way.
No. That was great. I enjoyed listening. I know you know a lot more about Dave Culley than I do because I frankly didn't really know who he was when the hire was made. But for me, we could talk about how he is as a game manager or just a leader of men and you know just X, Y, and Z. But the man, like listen, I'm happy for the guy. It's his first head coaching
Mhm.
job, but the man's 65 years old. Like
Right.
this isn't like a 10-year like you cannot tell me that the Texans see him being their coach for the next like for the long term at least. Like, I'm not going
Mhm.
to put a time frame out there, but you cannot tell me they see him being their coach for the next 10 years. Like something is just fishy about this hire. Listen, if I'm Deshaun Watson, yeah, I would want out too because this organization has frankly done nothing to support him since he's been drafted. They had Bill O'Brien, who clearly was not a favorite amongst players, to put it to the least, and they have not given him an offensive line since he's entered the league. Mitch, since
Yep.
he's entered the league, he's been sacked. Hold on, I have it right here. 174 times, and he didn't even
And keep in
start
mind,
his entire rookie year.
I was just gonna say exactly. Not only did he not even start his entire rookie year, he missed like half of it with an injury.
Yeah, he got sacked 62 times in 2018. 62. That is actually ridiculous. And when you trade away DeAndre Hopkins, when you still don't have an offensive line, when you have maybe the worst defense in the league, and you're a flat out stud and you want to maximize your career and actually be able to play on the biggest stage in the playoffs and be with an organization that gives you the best chance to do so, I cannot blame Deshaun Watson at all. And I love
Hmm.
that you brought up the NBA point as well, because we've seen in other sports throughout the past few years, players having more control over their future. We just saw it in the NBA. Now, granted, the NBA, I think, is much more of a players' league than the NFL is, because the
I
NFL has
agree
the
for sure.
franchise tag and the owners have a lot more power. But we just saw in the NBA with James Harden, he was unhappy in Houston. Sorry for Houston sports fans, it's a rough time right now, but he was just unhappy in Houston. He requested a trade. Now he's playing with the Nets where he wanted to be. So I cannot blame Deshaun Watson at all. I think although the Texans obviously don't want to trade him, he will eventually be traded at some point. To
Right.
where, I mean, listen, there's only about, I would say, like probably like 10 teams that wouldn't have some interest in a trade. You know what I'm saying? Like there's only really like, I'd say like 10 to 12 teams that have their franchise quarterback
It,
situation locked down for the next
yeah.
extended period of time.
Right. I mean, ultimately, we're talking about a quarterback that, in my opinion, he's elite. He's probably a
Yeah.
top 10 player in the
Yeah.
league. So, right. Unless you're the Chiefs, the Bills, the Packers, the Bucks, I mean, I don't know what other teams you
The
want to put in there, but
Ravens.
maybe the Ravens. I mean, what there's not every other team should be on the phone with
Yeah.
the Texans right now because
Listen, as a Giants fan, I will gladly give away picks. You can take Daniel Jones. You can maybe even take Saquon Barkley as well. I will take Deshaun
oh,
Watson on my team
absolutely,
any day of the
absolutely.
week. But for
I said
me,
this the
I
other day to my
think,
friend.
yeah,
I
no,
was just
go
saying,
ahead. Go
real
ahead.
quick. You remember? I don't know if you remember like the whole craziness, but when the Saints traded their entire draft for Ricky Williams to go
Yeah.
up and draft him, right? Like Deshaun Watson is actually like worth literally not having one single pick this
Yeah.
season
No,
for like
I 100% agree with you.
he's that impactful to a franchise.
He is a flat out stud entering the prime of his career. He's reliable. He's a great teammate. Players around him like him. I think best fit. I would personally. I know you wouldn't love to see this. I know you brought up the Redskins. I'm not getting back at you here, but I think he would fit great in Miami just because they have Flores and they have a great defense. They have some playmakers. They obviously need to add some more. I think some more wide receivers, but I think he'd be a great fit in Miami. Um, the team that I think should be on the phone right now and should not let any other team trade for him would be the New York Jets, to be completely honest with you. If I were the New York Jets, I would give up Darnold. I would give up the number 2 overall pick. I would give up more first round picks. I would give up a second or a third round pick. If I were the Jets, I would not allow any other team to grab Deshaun Watson, simply because the Jets have not had a franchise quarterback since Joe Namath. Like it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. And I think Deshaun Watson, now granted it's the Jets, but in a New York market with a coach that he reportedly wanted to be with in Robert Saleh, I think that could be a turning point for a franchise that has obviously struggled over the last however many decades. If I were the Jets, I would not let any other team grab him. But that's just me. Yeah.
No,
So
100%, 100%. And kind of going off that, there's another quarterback, of course, is on the move, and Carson Wentz, who I mean, at this point, reports are coming out that the Eagles are probably going to trade him at some point this week. And Carson Wentz, I think, is a way trickier quarterback to kind of figure out as far as like what teams
yeah,
want. First of all, I'm genuinely surprised by the amount of interest there is in Carson Wentz with
yeah,
that crazy contract. And the fact of the matter is that Carson Wentz, I guess he was pretty good in 2019, but overall has been underwhelming, I would say, especially after that knee injury he had in 2017. It's just not been anything special. And if you're a team that's gonna give up a lot of capital to get a quarterback, personally, my opinion is you should just go for Deshaun Watson this rate, because Deshaun Watson is such a better player than Carson Wentz. I mean,
yeah,
it's not even close. And as much as Carson Wentz's issues were, the Eagles, the coaching, the players around him, the scheme he was in, it's not like Carson Wentz also wasn't playing horrible either. Like, he was bad. I know that the situation around him was arguably worse, but he was bad. So I have a harder time kind of figuring out where he'll go. I know that the Colts and the Bears have a lot of interest in him. The only one of those teams that really makes sense to me is the Colts, just because Frank Reich, their head coach, was the offensive coordinator, and the only season where Carson Wentz was truly spectacular. And reuniting with him, especially on a team that's got a great O line, which the Eagles
yeah.
have not had, has got a good running game, which the Eagles have not had. It has some good receivers, which the Eagles have not had. You would like to see if maybe he would succeed in a situation like that. However, I'm just a little hesitant about Carson Wentz. I don't know if I believe in him at this point.
Yeah. For me, I 100% agree with you. I think what would be his best fit at this point would be the Colts for the reasons that you mentioned. Personally, if I were an executive or a GM of the team, I would not trade for him because of that contract. I know we've seen. I know. Listen, his talent is indisputable. We know he has a big arm. We know he's big, but the guy, as you said, like despite all of the unfair, I guess, circumstances that he's been granted throughout the past 4 years, drafting a quarterback in the second round when there's clear issues, drafting Jalen Rager over Justin Jefferson, all of these things. Like he really, just watching him last year, like he looked bad, like he looked awful. And there is obviously some talent that can still be brought out of him in a better situation. But I just think that contract is just, if I were a GM, it would just be too much. It would be too much of a risk for me to give up draft capital for. I feel like I would be much more. I would feel much more safe trading up for a quarterback in this draft, because there's a lot of quarterbacks that are going to be taken in the first round in this draft. I mean, obviously, I don't have to list them all, but yeah, I would agree with you. I think the Colts are the best fit, but however, I would not be interested in Carson Wentz if I were a team, even that needed a quarterback. I think I would look towards the draft at this point. Let's transition right back to the Super Bowl. Let's finally give our predictions. Mitch, what is your prediction? I want the score. Obviously, I want the winner. I want what do you think is going to happen in the game? Maybe Super Bowl MVP. Give it to me.
All right. Well, this is a hard Super Bowl to predict, to be honest, because these are two really outstanding
Yeah,
teams. And as I said it going into that championship Sunday that the four teams that made it, give me any variation of matchup, and I think everyone will be pretty happy. And This matchup in particular with the quarterbacks is just so intriguing. Predictions. I mean, who wins this game? I'm gonna go Tampa, and I just think that Tom Brady just kind of seems like he's on a mission this season, right? To really prove to everybody that as Danny Amendola put it, the Patriot way was really just Tom Brady the whole time. That's what he said. He said, I would not play for Bill Belichick at all right now. And you're seeing, with some players who, like Matthew Stafford, refused to go to New England. So you're starting to wonder if, there's no question Bill Belichick is a great coach. He's a Hall of Famer. He's the GOAT. But you do start to question whether, how much of it was truly him and how much of it was the fact that he got lucky and got Brady. And I think Brady has just been trying to prove to everybody in a system that everyone said was a bad fit for him. Going to a team that everyone's like, why would you go to Tampa? Tampa, huh? You know, versus other teams that people were like, oh, go to this team because they're historic. They have all this history. Tampa Bay's got nothing. Point being is this: Tom Brady to me seems like he's trying to prove to the whole world that he's the greatest quarterback that ever lived. And sometimes when legends kind of get in that mindset of it's kind of me against the world, I think we saw that a little bit like Michael Jordan, right? In his prime, we've seen it with LeBron, with Kobe. There's plenty of examples of it. What usually happens? They freaking win the whole thing. They prove everybody wrong. They prove all the doubters wrong. And this might be just because I've watched Tom Brady dominate the AFC East for 20 years, but I just have no question that when Tom Brady wants to get something done, it gets done. So I'm going to take Tampa Bay in this game. I'm going to go 35-31. It's going to be close, and I think it's going to be high scoring because I don't think both these defenses are capable to shutting down these offenses. Super Bowl MVP, I think I'm going to go with Tom Brady. And that's about all I got. The guy's 43 and is still a top-notch quarterback in the league. He's unbelievable. He's undeniably the GOAT at this point, no question.
Yeah. Before I start, I will say that I have flipped back and forth on this pick multiple times throughout the week. I had the Chiefs. I think it was like 2 or 3 days ago by a score of 31-27. And I'm really not trying to jinx this right now, but as of last night and as of today, I think I'm going to go with Tampa Bay. And it's just simply because throughout my life, whenever the Super Bowl is played, and obviously Tom Brady has played in almost 50% of his seasons in the Super Bowl, which is a crazy statistic, 10 out of 21 seasons he's been in the Super Bowl. My principle usually is, unless the New York Giants are playing, I'm picking the Patriots or I'm picking Tom Brady because usually he wins. And as you said, this season, he just seems to want to prove to everyone that maybe not that the Patriots are a lousy organization and blah, 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 but he just wants to prove like that I can get this done on a different team in a different location. Like I'm not a system player. Like put me anywhere. I'm the greatest to ever do it. And he just seems locked in. I think the players around him, who are obviously very talented, have sort of rallied behind him. And I think they have the playmakers on the defensive side of the ball, obviously not to shut the Chiefs down because you're not going to do that, but to make some plays and to give Brady the ball back and just give him multiple opportunities to sort of match them. So I'm going to go Tampa Bay as well in a very close game. I'm going to take them 34-31. And I just think regardless, listen, I have no conviction in that pick. I think the Chiefs could easily win this game because I think this is one of the hardest Super Bowls to pick in recent memory. But I just think it's going to be a really great game to watch, and I can't wait for it. Super Bowl MVP, I guess I'll go Tom Brady as well because if it's going to be high scoring, he's going to have a great game most likely. But I will say, look out for someone on the Tampa Bay defensive side. I think maybe it's JPP, maybe it's Devin White, but I think in order for Tampa to have a great game and for Tampa to win this game, someone on the defensive side of the ball is going to have to step up and make some plays. So that I'll just leave it at that. I'm going with Tampa as well. Hope I don't jinx us, but I've been flipping back and forth all week, so I have no conviction in this pick. But it's going to be a great game, and I
No,
can't wait
it's a,
for
it's
it.
a it's a it's a tough decision, man. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess that just about wraps it up. We're going to have another show next week, another podcast coming out. And then hopefully in 2 weeks from now, we should be back in the live studio. Like I mentioned, Fridays from 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. I'll tweet that out as well. I'll tweet out some highlights from this podcast as well. Looking forward to getting some good shows in this semester. And that's really all I have. Have a great Super Bowl Sunday. Hopefully the game is just as great as it is being made out to be. I have no doubt that it will be, but you never know. And
Mhm.
that's really it from us. Signing off. New York State of Mind.